Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics and our best and worst of summer Minisode. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Peter.
We have a special guest with us. That's right, Peter. We thank you for joining us, a frequent listener of the show. And we're going to hear from him about his best and worst of the summer along with the rest of us. Let's dive right into it. It's obviously not been a great summer at the box office with receipts down all throughout the summer and really all throughout the year. But there were certainly some bright spots in summer. And let's hear from Joe first. We're going to do our the first part of our best of, 10 through 2. Then we'll go over our 3 worst. And then end the show with our favorite of the summer.
All right, starting off with me. That's not what I was expecting. Well, I get to start it off.
I like to keep you on your toes.
You really did. Well, the first one actually for my number 10 will be probably the most controversial. And that would actually be Begin Again. I really enjoyed the music in this movie. I thought the story was fun. I really liked Mark Ruffalo's character. I just I did like the whole weird flashback thing they did in the beginning. Worked for me a lot. And just thinking back about the movies that I saw this summer, this one was kind of tied with a couple ones that would be obviously bigger. But I just kind of liked this one more, and it just stood out to me. So that sits comfortably at number 10.
Well, I'll be honest. All of my top 10 are A- or higher. B+ would start number 11, and Begin Again was a B+. So that definitely is near the top 10 for me as well.
Yep, that's actually what I gave it.
I mean, for all my issues with it, I can see why it would make your list. The music is really good in it.
It really stuck out to me. Number 9 is 22 Jump Street. This one, admittedly, not quite as good as the first one, but I still loved it. Particularly that final gag at the end was just hilarious. Number 8 is Amazing Spider-Man 2. Really liked this one a lot. I know some people had some problems with it, but yeah, I actually was thinking it was going to be a lot higher on the list, but then I looked over and saw all the great movies we saw since then. So a little bit above that is Edge of Tomorrow. Great sci-fi, kind of one of the few really good ones we've had in recent months and really years, actually. It's very original. Great Tom Cruise role, and even Gleason kind of showed up again.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a really fun one. Definitely stuck out. Want to say something, Peter?
Bill Paxton should be in every movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great in Edge
He
of
did a
Tomorrow.
lot with a very small role.
Mm-hmm.
He was very believable and felt like a fully formed character in what could have been, just a one-off drill sergeant.
And especially because he does basically the same thing in every scene, because he appears when Tom Cruise first wakes up.
Yeah, but there's little changes with each iteration as Tom Cruise's reactions change. So
right.
Bill Paxton. So
yeah,
that's a really awesome comment. Actually, Bill Paxton could probably be in just about every movie, and
one of the better parts of $1 Million Arm, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's true.
Right?
Yes. Well, that one wasn't too bad either.
No.
Won't be on my top 10, though.
No.
All right. Number 6 was Snowpiercer. This one was quite a surprise for me. What a fantastic movie. Really original. I kind of like the whole enclosed environment. Yeah, we've seen post-apocalyptic movies before, but this is one of the more original ones I've seen. Really great performance from Evans. Admittedly, the end I kind of saw coming, but I could still see it having a lot of impact, at least thematically.
I did not see Snowpiercer.
Well, hey, I would really recommend it.
Yeah, it should be at Redbox pretty soon.
Would be. I imagine it would be on my list if I'd seen it.
I think you'd really like it. It was really good. Number 5 is X-Men Days of Future Past. This is one of the best superhero movies that came out this summer, but not the best. Just a really great homage to the comic book storyline, as well as kind of undoing everything terrible about X-Men 3, so we never have to talk about it again. Really good, fun story, some great action. I will admit, one thing that kept it from being an A+ is I just felt like the Sentinels were a little underwhelming. I'm sorry. I'm still waiting for Sentinels. Real deal. But other than that, really great comic book movie. Awesome for fans of the movies and the comics. Number 4 is Chef. Still going back and forth about what ultimate grade I'll give it, but this was a really good movie. Great comedy. Favreau is awesome. I wish that we gotten more time with some of these characters, but everybody's there is great. Johansson, Hoffman, just everybody. Of course, Leguizamo. It just really...
Leguizamo is great.
Like everybody just had great timing and a lot of fun. Really good story, very solid, but overall just great. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Number 3 is Boyhood. This is, just really awesome spectacle in terms of just cinematography and just the fact that they were able to film all these guys and have these consistent characters using the same actors. It just makes it really believable. Very true human story, very grounded. Excellent film. Number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy. This was just fantastic. Blew me away, even beyond my expectations, which were high. I think it surprised a lot of people. It's just amazing what Marvel Studios has been able to do with a relatively obscure group of characters and make it one of the biggest successes they've ever had. So I think that stands very comfortably at number 2.
And as of a few days ago, the highest grossing film of the year so far.
That's right. Had one of the best 6th weekends behind Avengers and a couple other
Dark
ones.
Knight and Avatar, maybe, I think, are the other ones.
Yeah, it's really high for.
And it's the only, I think, 4 movies have been number 1 4 weeks in the last decade.
And it's one of them.
It was Avatar, Dark Knight, and Hunger Games, and this is one of them.
Yeah, so really awesome hit.
Yeah, this has out-earned Man of Steel. It'll probably out-earn Iron Man 1 before the end of its run.
Probably.
So
it's one of their biggest ones.
Yeah.
And considering
surprising from a group of largely unknown
creatures.
These
are like C-list,
and
B-list superheroes.
And that just speaks to the advertising and the writing and just the chemistry and the time and devotion that just proves why Marvel Studios is such a great force today.
Not to mention even word of mouth.
That's what I was just going to say, Justin. The word of mouth on this movie is incredible, and that, I think, has helped also propel it even further, you know? Peter, let's go to you and hear your 10 through 2 on the best of.
I do have one honorable mention, which is Ghostbusters. Came out for the 30th anniversary. I did see it. This is, I think, the 3rd time I've seen it in theaters.
Nice. Second for me.
Yeah, I love this film, and it's one of my all-time favorites. I didn't feel like I could put it on the list, even though it's better than most of the films on my list.
You know, we should touch on that real quick, because we didn't really talk about that on the show itself. Peter, I'm glad you brought that up. Justin, unfortunately, didn't get to see the re-release, but of course you've seen it, many times before. But it really is a testament to how great this movie is, that it's just so exciting to see it again on the big screen,
Yeah.
And Joe and I were pointing out the other day, Peter, I don't know if you found this as well, but it's very odd to see everybody in the movie smoking. You kind of forget how big smoking was in the first 100 years of movies. And now it's like you hardly ever see it. Aykroyd's got a cigarette in every scene, pretty much,
Yeah. All right, so I haven't seen a lot of the movies that I imagine will be on other people's lists, but I've seen enough, I think. So my number 10 is Dragon Ball Z, Battle of the Gods.
Okay.
I admit that this maybe isn't the greatest film, and a lot of this is coming from nostalgia, but I thought it was one of the best Dragon Ball Z films I've ever seen. It was enjoyable seeing it in the theater with kind of the crowd of fans. It was one of the best movie-going experiences of the year, and I am glad that I had that opportunity.
That's awesome. Glad you brought that up.
Yeah, that's another one we didn't actually get to talk about on the show. You guys did see that, right?
Yes.
What were your grades on that?
B+.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty good. Overall, I didn't really think about putting it on the list because I consider that a 2013 movie, but I guess for releases this year, that does count. Yeah, I forgot about that. That was a pretty good one. I'm glad you brought that up, too.
Granted, I'm not as fluent with DBZ as you two are, but I do think had I been there and had I had that experience, it probably would have gotten a higher grade. I left it with a C+, but I did honestly enjoy it.
Yeah, I certainly hope that this will sort of revive the franchise.
I agree.
I've heard it will.
Yeah. So my number 9 is Godzilla. Again, it's not a perfect movie, but the opening credits are amazing. Anything with Bryan Cranston or Watanabe, which are both, they're not in the movie enough.
Yeah.
Enjoyed the fight scenes. I thought even the bridge scene was very suspenseful. And I hope that there will be a sequel and that they'll be able to sort of improve upon the work that was done here.
Yeah, and the sequel's already on the schedule, so it is happening.
Okay.
Liked the movie.
Number 8 is Under the Skin. Wow. I admire this more for the ambition that the project had. I expected to like it more, but I thought it was really interesting. It was sort of an original science fiction story. I thought Scarlett Johansson was a very interesting casting choice with her. Sort of as this emotionless alien creature. It reminded me of The Man Who Fell to Earth, which was David Bowie in the 75?
Good comparison, actually, yeah.
Never seen it.
Yeah.
I think Peter should be on the show more.
I know. I wish he could be.
Number 7 is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I thought it was a vast improvement over the Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which I didn't enjoy as much as most other people did. But I'm really intrigued to see where the franchise goes from here. I thought they had some really interesting ideas, and I think there's a lot of potential in sort of branching out from the original Apes franchise. My number 6 is 22 Jump Street. I did actually like it more than the original, although a lot of that did have to do with the end credits sequence, which
that pushed it up a little bit for me as well.
It
was brilliant.
Yeah, I didn't expect that I didn't expect that, and it was.
I mean, the whole movie's tongue in cheek, but that just like pushes it. 8 steps, up.
Number 5 is How to Train Your Dragon 2. I'm very glad this is getting a sequel. It's been announced. So I'm happy that they're going to be able to complete the story that they set out to do. I think that and I know that you discussed this on the show, the idea of the trailer spoiling a crucial element that I think the movie would have been stronger if we didn't know that going in. It's still beautiful. It's able to pack in a lot of action and humor. I just wish that maybe we knew a little less going in. Number 4 is The Only Lovers Left Alive, the Jim Jarmusch vampire film.
Oh,
good choice.
I did not see that.
Yeah, I saw it when I was back in Michigan, so I don't know. I don't know if it came around here, but I happened to be.
Oh, that's awesome.
Happened to see it down in Ann Arbor. So.
Never heard of it. What's that one about?
It's
Tilda Swinton. Right?
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston and Tilda Swinton. He's kind of this sort of rock star that's been alive for some amount of time. It's kind of vague, and it's almost like this hangout movie. It's sort of in the vein of other Jim Jarmusch.
I was going to say, it seems like a lot of his stuff is kind of like you hang around and you let it mellow.
It reminded me a lot of like Coffee and Cigarettes, where it's a lot of discussions of the meaning of life. There's more to it than that, but it's not sort of the typical vampire movie of the modern day.
Well, it sounds like we might have to do a home media moment with that then. Because that didn't come anywhere around here. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's certainly not for everyone, but I really enjoyed that. My number 3 is X-Men Days of Future Past. I think we've already said plenty about that, and I imagine there will be plenty more to say. But the casting was brilliant. Everyone, all the interactions, I thought it was a vast improvement over First Class. And the Quicksilver action sequence gives Joss Whedon a lot to look up to.
Probably my favorite part.
Yeah, that was the music, and that was brilliantly done. Number 2 is Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was an almost perfect combination of science fiction and sort of the big Tom Cruise action, and it did sort of justice to all of everything it was trying to do. There were minor issues with it, but I feel like it's a movie that rewards rewatching. That's something that people will come back to years from now, and I think it has some longevity that maybe many of the other films this summer won't have.
Next great cult movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as long as people find out about it. I'm actually surprised that it made the $100 million mark, because it it was like trudging along there. But I'm glad at least,
I'm glad that it did. It did very well overseas.
Yeah.
So
hopefully it'll do as well on DVD. Of course, the title has been changed now to Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah,
It's beyond bizarre, but
yeah.
Did you hear that, Joe?
Sounds like a Japanese title.
Yeah, the new title Warner Brothers is releasing it on DVD and Blu-ray with everywhere is Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow.
So it's not called Edge of Tomorrow anymore.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's kind of bad.
Isn't that really stupid marketing?
Why are they doing that? Is there any reason for it?
Because it was originally going to be called All You Need Is Kill in honor of the book. They didn't like that. They changed it to Edge of Tomorrow. They still didn't like that. And now they're deciding, hey, if we can get the title right one more time, maybe maybe more people will come in for it.
I think Edge of Tomorrow sounds perfect.
I thought it was fine the way it was.
I thought it was a fine movie. It just it felt like it came out at the wrong time. There was kind of the sandwich between Godzilla and Transformers.
Doesn't it seem more like a later of the year type of movie? Like towards Thanksgiving,
that would
Christmas?
actually make sense either like in April
like when they released Oblivion,
or like or November movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just seems it didn't seem quite right for summer.
No. All right, well, Justin, let's go to your top 10 best of.
Kicking it off at number 10 is Godzilla. Much like Peter, not perfect, but a very admirable start. I thought the director found a way to sort of counteract the balance between how the U.S. perceives Godzilla as this gigantic monster that fights other alien creatures, but also staying true to its roots as this darker, more deeper themed series. Number 9 is How to Train Your Dragon 2. Not quite up to par with the original, but absolute gorgeous animation. Storyline's still pretty solid. Marketing isn't fantastic, but overall still a pretty worthy sequel. Number 8 is Calvalry. Great performance by Gleason. Obviously, I've mentioned my issues with it on the show already, but just really thought-provoking storytelling and one of the more interesting films that I've seen this year. Number 7 is Edge of Tomorrow. Quite possibly the most underrated film this summer. It's action-packed and honestly thoroughly entertaining. Ending I kind of have a love-hate relationship with, but still definitely one of the better movies of the summer. Number 6 is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. The biggest issue I have with the first one is it doesn't feel like a Planet of the Apes movie. This one manages to not only pay respect to the original, but still go further and above and beyond with what the original set forth, and really showing how much potential the new franchise has. And it really just continues to prove that Andy Serkis needs more recognition.
And I would agree that the references felt a lot less heavy-handed this time around, whereas in the original it was a lot of,
hey, look, this is an allusion to this.
He's holding the Statue of Liberty, or it's a madhouse. This was much more subtle.
My number 5 is Snowpiercer. I think it's incredible they managed to have action almost reminiscent of The Raid, and yet have these kind of interesting dystopian themes that reminded me of Fritz Lang's Metropolis, which I thought made it both not only just action-packed, but also intellectually stimulating. You don't get too many movies that are like that anymore. My number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Really bold new direction for Marvel that's both hysterical at times, emotional at others, and almost begs audiences to have as good a time as the people involved. My number 3 is Chef. Just an absolute rip-roaringly funny love letter to food and cooking, with solid performances from Jon Favreau and everyone else involved, and just an all-around really solid and thoroughly engaging atmosphere. My number 2 is X-Men Days of Future Past. After many, many disappointing films after X2, I was kind of left wondering, how do we breathe new life into a series that seems kind of on a tailspin? And they decided to answer that by bringing back Bryan Singer, crafting an awesome story that lives up to its classic roots, filled with suspense and fun, and manages to basically negate everything that started with Brett Ratner.
I think that was pretty much everyone's favorite part about that movie.
Yeah.
Is that it's sort of excised
X2.
X3 existing.
Great.
Yeah.
X2 is
Last
the
Stand.
Nightcrawler one. That's the good one.
It depends on who you ask.
X2
actually.
is pretty good.
It is pretty good.
Yeah.
But some people don't like it.
Well,
I'd say the original trilogy 1 is my personal favorite, but people do enjoy 2.
Really?
Yeah.
1 is my least favorite. I actually prefer
Really?
3 over 1.
What?
Oh, wow.
That's a Minisode
Yeah,
in itself.
Yeah, that's a whole different monster.
Yikes. All right. Well, I think you'll hear a lot of echoing with mine. There's only one movie that we haven't heard about yet on anybody's list, and that's my number 10, and that is the movie Belle. The lead actress, Gugu Mbatha-Raw. It's just a great performance for her. Just a really, really great performance from her and everybody else. Very good story. So yeah, just a good drama there. My number 9 is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I actually enjoy this one slightly better than the first one. The biggest problem I had with it was that the human element wasn't quite as fleshed out. We talked about that in detail on the show. But at the same time, I don't know that it matters all that much, because it really is about the apes and Andy Serkis specifically doing, what he does best. My number 8 is X-Men Days of Future Past. Probably my favorite of all of the X-Men movies. I still do like First Class a lot. That was my previous favorite of the entire series, but Days of Future Past certainly rivals it. My number 7 is Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow, as I like to call it. But no, this was just a fantastic movie. It is one of these things where it could have been very easy to just get sick of seeing the same thing over and over again, but the subtle differences, like you mentioned, Peter, with Bill Paxton's character, and the differences that Tom Cruise brings to it, and how he convinces Emily Blunt every time to go a little bit further than they went the day before. Just a really great movie, and I do agree that hopefully this one will sort of become a hit in the cult status, and people will be talking about it in a few years. My number 6 is 22 Jump Street. Originally on the show, I gave this one an A. I have since bumped that down to an A-, but it is still a very, very funny movie. Certainly the best of all of the comedies, probably this whole year, not just this summer. I thought they took what was great about the first one and sort of incorporated that into more meta humor and more kind of inside jokes about the franchise itself. My number 5 is Guardians of the Galaxy. I've seen this one twice now. It's one that I think will hold up for years to come. Mm-hmm. All of the characters are great, and it's another movie where people will find different things great about it. You know, my personal favorite was Rocket. You know, a lot of people like Groot. A lot of people love Zoe Saldana. The music, obviously, is key. I really liked the way they incorporated the music in this. Mm-hmm. Peter, you mentioned the music in X-Men. Which helped it.
Yeah, the Jim Croce.
Time in a Bottle.
Yeah.
And it is true that superhero movies, except for maybe the AC/DC tunes and Iron Man, superhero movies on the whole tend not to be too music heavy with the scenes.
More instrumental.
Yeah, it's more like score stuff rather than soundtrack. And, it proves here that it worked. It was the first soundtrack album ever to make number 1 without having an original song on it. Because all the songs are, from the 70s. So I think that's...
I would point out that you can do music in a superhero movie badly, as in Daredevil.
And I never saw Daredevil.
Yeah, that...
I know Bring Me to Life by Evanescence was in it, right?
That's the best example, because that's the most inappropriate scene. It's just a random part where she's training.
Yeah.
There's no significance to it either.
Yeah, we've seen it done badly, so...
that's a reason it doesn't happen so often.
Right.
Yeah. To offer a brief counterpoint, though, the music itself is okay, just the placement of it is kind of awkward.
Yeah, that describes Daredevil in general. Yeah. A lot of good elements that were awkwardly placed. But
yeah.
I kind of like
I won't fight you on that one.
I do too.
How ironic.
Well, yeah.
Well, my number 4 is Snowpiercer. Peter, you'll definitely have to see this movie and let us know what you think of it. I think you'll enjoy it. It really took me a little bit by surprise. I think we were all kind of surprised. I gave it the highest grade out of anybody when we did the show. But I just thought it was brilliantly done. I think the culture and the class struggle stuff really was done well. The performances were fantastic, specifically from Tilda Swinton and Chris Evans. My number 3 is Boyhood. I think it's a fantastically done project, done well, amazingly. It's something that could have been so great in theory and horrible in execution, and because of everybody that was involved in it, it just isn't. It turns out fantastic. My number 2 is Chef. This is one now I've seen 2 full times and about a half a time after that. Every time I go on break at work, I go sit in it. I love this movie. It's a lot of these people's, I think, strongest performances. John Leguizamo is somebody, Peter, I would say maybe is in that Bill Paxton category. I could see him in pretty much every movie.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
He adds, a great style to it. And in Chef specifically...
Flavor.
Flavor, that's right. In Chef specifically, they're talking about Cuban sandwiches, and, so it's like he gets to use his Spanish and his flair for that character, which I loved. So that is my number 2. And now we're going to talk about the worst of the worst for the summer in our bottom 3. Joe, we'll kick it off with you.
All right. My number 3 spot would actually be Third Person. This movie, admittedly, had some cool stylistic elements and a good cast, but that didn't prevent it from being one of the most nearly unwatchable things I've ever seen in my life. It was boring. It was torture. I wanted to leave constantly, and every time I tried to draw you back in with a little bit of interest, it would just beat you down again.
It was a waste of time.
And yet you recommended it to me.
I wanted you to watch it because I had the illusion that Justin would like it, and I knew I didn't like it, so I wanted you to sort of say your thoughts as well.
I'll say this much. It's an experience. It's unique. It has some cool things, but overall as a movie, it's pretty terrible.
Another classic case of terrible marketing, but...
Well, that might have helped it a little bit. Number 2 is And So It Goes. This movie is pretty generic. It's pretty pretty horrible. The characters are terrible. The storyline's really rough. It actually was one of those things I thought more about it, and I realized that a movie like for an older generation, this is one of the movies that they have for viewership. That's just terrible.
It's sad.
It's really below the belt. And I mean, Michael Douglas, what are you doing? It's just how far he's fallen. It's terrible. Number 3 will actually make Dan happy.
Number 1, I guess.
I guess it's my number 1 of the worst of the summer for 2014 is Legends of Oz.
Yeah! I couldn't believe you didn't fail that movie, Joe.
I thought that some things about it, like there was some animation I thought was okay, but it was on the verge of failing for me. Still pretty terrible. God, it's rough. It's just it's unsightly to the eyes, to all the senses. Really just didn't need to be made. What a waste of time.
And what a blemish on Patrick Stewart's career.
Pretty much.
Yeah, as the log man.
As the log boat.
As the boat tug the...
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, who knows how they wrangled these people into this movie. It was terrible.
All right, Peter, let's hear your worst of the summer.
All right, well, the first one is more disappointment.
Okay.
And that would be Jersey Boys.
Yeah, that was very disappointing.
I enjoyed the music, but it just, the movie was uneven, it was dull. It's certainly not the worst movie of the summer. It's not even necessarily a bad movie. It was just a dull movie that could have been a lot better, which is maybe going to be a theme here.
Yeah.
My number 2 would be Transformers 4, which I was actually paid to sit through due to some circumstances, and still did not like it.
Oh, wow.
That says a lot.
It was an improvement over...
last ones?
Yeah, but not... It actually... I appreciate the first one more now. Like, yeah, that was not a terrible movie. And my number 1 is A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Wow.
Terrible movie. Great choice.
Which just misfired on... I felt like it had a lot of potential. The trailer seemed pretty funny, and none of the jokes just didn't work, and a lot of weird stuff going on. I mean, the cameos were funny, but they just felt like Family Guy jokes, whereas trotting out a reference and having that be the joke, and I was just disappointed. I felt like it could have been great. It could have been another Blazing Saddles, but instead it was...
garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Justin, how about you?
Well, to start off, dishonorable mention goes to Tammy. Just an obnoxious and unfunny story that seems to desperately want audiences to like it, but just gets worse and worse as the film goes on. My number 3 is As Above, So Below. Obviously, we're going to be reviewing this shortly, but just another terrible case of abysmal marketing. Number 2 is Into the Storm. Just flat out, all around lazy. It should have never, ever had a theatrical release.
That movie was fine.
I knew that was going to be on there.
I
thought it was all right.
It
was stupid and ridiculous.
It was funny.
I mean, yes, Fire NATO is hilarious,
well,
but...
if they just had Bill Paxton, it could have been twisted.
Yes,
that's right.
Because Bill Paxton makes everything better.
It does. It all comes back.
It's still a smarter movie than Twister. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. But...
And number 1, Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return. It's a case... It's probably going to be a textbook case of people independently funding movies like Kickstarter going horribly, horribly wrong. This is one of those moments where Dan and I have seen a lot of movies together, and occasionally we'll have these instances where he will tell me that what we've just witnessed is one of the worst things he's ever seen, and I usually tell him that that's not even close to some of the terrible stuff I've seen. I'm not even going to say... I'm just going to flat out say it. This is one of the worst movies I have ever had the displeasure to sit through.
That's awful. Good
just
number
hands
1.
Down.
Well, my number 3 on the worst list is Sex Tape.
Oh.
Of all of the awful comedies this summer, Tammy was one. Million Ways to Die in the West is definitely one. Sex Tape is honestly my least favorite of all of them. I like almost all of the people involved, but the story was completely ridiculous. The comedy didn't work. It was just a mess all around. My number 2 is Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return. It is awful. It is an abomination to the Frank L. Baum books, characters, and of course the original 1939 film. However, the songs were songs, so I can't give it my lowest. They were okay, and it wasn't the worst thing this summer. That was And So It Goes. Just why? Why does this movie exist? Why are they making movies for the older generation that no one will like, young or old? It wasn't funny. It wasn't clever. It wasn't cute. Diane Keaton and Michael Douglas weren't good together. It just was bad. So that is my least.
It was just flat out lazy.
It was. It was lazy. And you asked a great question, Justin, when we were talking about it. What happened to all of these people? Rob Reiner, the director, who also has a co-starring role, used to be this, cutting-edge, great director. In the last 10, 15 years, he's just churned out crap. And this is just the latest. So let's get that bad taste out of the mouth and talk about our favorites of the summer. Joe, what do you got?
I think you know what it is.
I think I do.
Well, my number one for the summer and the year so far is Calvalry. This movie was just fantastic. I loved the mystery. I loved the music. I loved the shots. I just thought it was this really awesome integrated story. I loved the thematic elements, but I also liked the fact that everything was kind of subtle. Performances were great. Everybody had great line, great dialogue, and Brendan Gleeson just steals the show. And it's so powerful, and it's so thought provoking. Really, you have to see this movie, and it requires multiple viewings. I mean, what a great film.
Yeah. Peter?
Yeah, it sounds like I'll have to see.
Yeah, you definitely have to see
Yeah,
Calvalry.
see
There's
Calvalry.
there's a lot of good stuff I've missed this summer. But
I like, though, that there was one on your list that none of us had seen.
Yeah,
I think that's awesome.
Yeah. So my favorite film of the summer was Guardians of the Galaxy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Might very well be the favorite film of the year, though. Grand Budapest Hotel was
Pretty good.
Another good choice, yeah.
That was certainly up my alley. But I think everyone loves this movie for different reasons. My favorite character was Drax.
See, there you go.
So that was, I guess, who I identified with. But the music is great. The action scenes work. Even when we're seeing sort of the immovable object versus the unstoppable force, it feels like a real fight. It feels like... my only complaint would be the villain's a little underdeveloped. He mostly is just there to have an antagonist to get the group together and threaten the universe. But this is a great step for Marvel. I look forward to more Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Yeah.
I'm glad that this was the most successful movie of the summer, although Transformers won worldwide. But
Well...
yeah,
there's no accounting for taste, I suppose.
Not particularly.
All right, Justin, how about your number one?
Well, I'm sure in a shocking upset, my number one is Boyhood. Richard Linklater knows his characters, and he just pulls that together so well. I think the whole crafting a story this good over 12 years is nothing short of phenomenal. The performances are great. The story's good. I think this is going to be one of those movies that we're going to be talking about decades after the fact. And it definitely makes me curious to see where Linklater will be heading next.
I think it's something that film students specifically will be talking about for years and years and years. This epic scale project that worked so well.
Absolutely.
My number one, much like Joe, is Calvalry. This is also my current number one of all of 2014. It's just absolutely phenomenal. We just talked about it on last week's show, so I don't have to go into too much detail, but Gleeson is astounding here. I've said it many times, the most complicated character we've seen on screen this year, and it's just so good. It's dramatic, it's thrilling, a little bit darkly comedic. It's something for everybody, I think.
I think it's a little more than a little darkly comedic.
Well, I just mean there's not that much dark humor in it, as we talked about, but...
Well, it's just so dark, it's not even funny.
Basically. Yeah, essentially. But yet it works very well with the rest of it.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for the Minisode. We will have a full episode up in just a few days. And if you have not checked it out yet, our latest full episode is a video show, the first one of those that we've done. So definitely check that out on our page or also on Joe's channel as well. And Peter, thanks so much for joining us this week.
We'll do it again.
Yeah,
sometime
hopefully
when
maybe best of the year we can get you back.
The stars align.
Yeah.
You're welcome, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah.
So hit us up, listeners, on the Twitter feed. That's at Film Fanatics Pod. And the Facebook group is Film Fanatics with an exclamation point. And, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not done so already. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Live, die, repeat.